Let's take a look at this book, Kasi Nerd, authored by Tebogo Ditshego. I met Tebogo Ditshego back in 2017. It was at an event hosted by Ibunoko Holdings and Ibunoko Foundation. We met Tebogo at an event and he was one of the speakers. So a short profile is that he at that time he had just also come from that Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, the YALI, which is Youth African Leadership Initiative, and he actually had this famous photo that he took with Barack Obama, right, when they were introduced to Barack within the US. And as young African leaders, they got certain exposures that you can only get if you are within that particular environment. I mean, meeting the president of the US of states at that particular point and shaking his hand must have been an amazing experience. But Tebogo is a young leader who owns a media company and has been doing great things and making great moves. But it's not about Tebogo, it's about Kasi Nerd, the book that Tebogo authored. It's a book worth reading. It tells the story of why it's cool to be smart. It tells the story of why it's cool to acquire knowledge, but not only acquire it for the sake of acquiring it, but to actually share it, to use it, to be practical about it, and to implement as much of that knowledge as you possibly can. It tells the story of how you shouldn't be shaped by the people that actually view you in a particular way within a particular environment in which you actually live and grow. It tells the story of how your first crush is not the love of your life, and you can actually end up having someone who relates to you and someone you actually love by virtue of you sharing commonalities and sharing certain interests that will take you far. It tells a story of black tax and how, as black young people, we love to associate our growth with having to give back, firstly within that environment of the nuclear family and expounding it or expanding it within that community environment, and how our parents don't want it to be that way, how our parents see our value to be in living our own journey and actually pushing our own journey. So it tells multiple stories, including the mistakes that young women make by choosing the coolest cat in the township at the time, only to regret it later in life. So this book is centered around Kgaole. Kgaole is a township within that Krugersdorp West Rand area, and it's centered around 4 key characters, right? Koketo being the main character within it. Then there's 2 ladies that are within there.